Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to Ramadan Spirit here at Huda Tv in London. I'm your host Jamil Rashid, and I'm happy to say today on this program, which is about a journey on finding ourselves in Ramadan, I'm joined by our special guest, Sheikh Farid Haybatan. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. Okay, this episode of Ramadan Spirit, we're going to speak about a very important topic. We know that whenever Ramadan comes about, there's always some striving for us to do. And one of those is to be patient. How to attain this patience in Ramadan is a very difficult thing sometimes. And we've only been, less than a week in Ramadan, and we've already been tested many a times. So the interesting thing is this month is known as the month of mercy, or the month of rahmah, like we spoke about in the previous week. But it's also known about the month of patience. And that's our topic today. If you want to join with us today, our telephone number should be on your screen now. Please give us a call right from the beginning, inshallah. And also you can also send us an email at ramadanspirit@huda.tv, and I'll get it here on the iPad and I'll take those questions, inshallah. Sheikh Farid, the topic of Ramadan and patience, it's intertwined. We always say, be patient, brother. You're in the month of Ramadan. What is really the connection between the month of patience, okay, this Ramadan itself? What's the connection? And really with patience itself as a topic, what's the connection?
Well, first I'd just like to welcome our viewers and congratulate them on witnessing this month, auspicious month. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blesses us all with the khair and the goodness that this month comes with. This particular topic is extremely important because the correlation or the connection between fasting and patience is absolutely essential. We can actually go straight to the actual meanings of the words in the Arabic language to see where the connection starts.
Yep.
So if we examine the word sawm, linguistically it means to refrain, to withhold, to stop yourself. Likewise, the term sabr has the same more or less meaning in the language. See, just from the language itself, before we even examine the wisdoms, before we even examine the scriptural texts that talk about the relationship between fasting and patience, just from linguistically the actual language of these two words, the meanings, they're already connected.
Subhanallah.
And the connection, as we said, is there in many ways. Indeed, it is related from the Prophet ﷺ that he has referred to this month, the month of Ramadan, which is the month of fasting, as being the month of patience. It's narrated from him that he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is reported to have said, "Shahru sabr, shahru sabr, wa sawmu thalathati ayam min kulli shahr, siyamu dahr." Meaning that the person who this month of patience and fasting every 3 days from every month is equivalent to fasting a whole year. And if someone wants to do that every year, then it's equivalent to him fasting throughout his entire life. Yeah, so the connections are very strong.
So this connection, okay, so linguistically, mashallah, it shows us how much we don't know about our own language. This language of Arabic is so important for us because it gives us such a strong understanding to the connection. But this connection, Sheikh Farid, in terms of the way we act with Ramadan, automatically, okay, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has changed up the shayateen, okay, and we know that it's going to be easy on us. But it's still put through that patience. I mean, it seems like from as soon as we start that fast, there's something that's in front of us. It seems like we're striving all the time. Really.
Without doubt. Our life is one of struggle. And patience is a virtue. Whereas fasting is an act of worship. Okay? And the connections are such that for someone to be able to fast in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he needs to have within him this essential quality of patience. And likewise, on top of that, if someone was to practice fasting, that in itself will develop his patience.
So is there a difference? So do we have to have patience before Ramadan comes, or do we develop it? This is maybe a question.
It's both. It's both. From the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that He has gifted us so many different types of acts of worship and so many different types of seasons that enable us to really climb the ranks and get closer to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And fasting is one of the most important ones in terms of developing patience. Patience lies at the core of every single praiseworthy act you can think of. That's how important patience is. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated for us fasting to achieve taqwa, to achieve a state of piety and consciousness with Him, which is built upon patience itself. That's why you have patience referred to in so many ways. And one of the ways it's referred to is that it's half of Iman, the other being shukr, gratitude. Even if you were to look at shukr itself, it requires patience.
Yeah.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Surah Al-Asr, those 4 great characteristics, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that humanity or people are in a state of loss, unless they have these 4 key characteristics, which are what? To have Iman, to have righteous actions, and then Allah says, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and to mutually consult each other with truth. And the very last one, the 4th one, was patience. Here, Imam Shafi rahimahullah mentioned that these 4, the meaning of this surah is enough for us. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hadn't revealed any other surah, it would been enough, because it combines everything. And that particularly, that last one, patience, even though it's listed as a 4th item, it's actually required everywhere. It's required to get your iman, to seek knowledge, to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how it should be understood. It's required to perform actions. And it's required when you consult each other with truth, because naturally when you engage in da'wah, or when you engage in calling people to Allah, or telling people what of the right things to do, harm and affliction comes. This is sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. So patience lies at the core of every single kind of act you can think.
So it lies at every single, or the core of every single act, okay? So it's how we say, it's a foundational kind of tool that we need to have. How do you go about developing it in Ramadan? Because, okay, we know that you abstain from food, you abstain from profanities that you do in normal life anyway, but you abstain from arguing with people. You say, فَإِنَّنِي أَنَا صَائِمٌ, please leave me alone. So how do you develop it, Shaykh?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And the answer is simple and difficult. Because, or before that question, it's good to put aside a misconception. And this is very important. I think the viewers need, some viewers may not have this misconception, may have heard of it amongst their families, relatives and so on. And that is the misconception that some people believe that a person can't change. They say, this person, he's not patient and he's like that.
He's doomed, basically.
Yeah.
He's not going to change. Yeah.
We say this about many characteristics of many people, okay? But this is incorrect, because the Prophet ﷺ has told us in the hadith that indeed he was sent to perfect the noble mannerisms. And this deen, this revelation, changes people. You only need to look at the history of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and how they changed. Okay, so the first key thing is to be able to become patient and be someone who is viewed as being a patient person. Okay, is to first of all know that you are able to get there. It's not just something that is given to a person. For sure, some people may be naturally more disposed to being patient and being more forbearing, but that doesn't mean it cannot be acquired. And this is borne by the testimony of the Prophet ﷺ himself, in which he said, وَمَنْ يَتَصَبَّرْ يُصَبِّرْهُ اللَّهُ. In the hadith, whoever attempts and takes upon the attitude of being patient, Allah will make him someone who's patient. So in terms of how does Ramadan connect with that, or fasting connect with that, and why is it so significant, is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I said, has gifted us with a type of act of worship that already puts us at base 2, if you like. Yeah? You're fasting, you already have that consciousness about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not eating, drinking, fulfilling other desires, which can impact, on your development and harnessing this virtue and potential of being patient. So you already feel, let's say the word spiritual, So when you're in that zone, you can then build upon that patience, because one of the most amazing things they say about patience is that it covers all the types of patience that scholars talk about.
So patience has types?
Yes. There's a patience that is connected to or required for achieving. When someone wants to achieve good deeds, okay, enact them, you need the patience to be able to carry them out. One small point before we carry on, I didn't make clear, is the word sabr in Arabic, it means more than just patience. So I'm hoping the viewers recollect that, because it has the meanings of persevering as well.
Sometimes it's constricted. We can't really explain some of the Arabic words. So it means more than that.
It's more than just being patient, because sometimes people would think patient just to meaning a passive mode.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, and bearing something. Or you got to be patient because this has afflicted you. No, it also means to persevere and to struggle. Okay, so one type of sabr, I'll say the word sabr. One type is the type of sabr that is required to enact good deeds, and Ramadan is filled with them. From the fasting itself, from standing up in prayer, from the sheer number of deeds someone can do, such as being generous, looking after those who are less fortunate, feeding the poor, engaging in recitation of Quran, tahajjud, and so on. Okay, so plenty of actions in this month which require sabr, and in engaging with them develops one sabr. Okay. Secondly, the second type of patience is one in which you need to have to refrain from matters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared forbidden. Okay, you need to be able to control yourself.
Restraint.
Yes, and this kind of patience requires someone to think about the reality of what they want to engage in, the harms that are in those things in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made forbidden. Is it worth it? They need to think about the hereafter, the bliss of the hereafter, how it outweighs any gain or pleasure you can experience by engaging something unlawful in this world. So all this, helps someone to become patient. And then the third type of patient as well. So you find this in Ramadan, by the way, you find this in fasting, because you have to, even more so be aware of doing things that spoil your fast, diminish it. Yeah, you already know you have to keep away from those things which are normally halal, but in this particular state become prohibited.
Which is slightly more difficult, because actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this thing halal for you.
Yes.
But in this particular moment you have to have the patience to abstain from it.
And see here, this is a very key point you mentioned, see, where the wisdom comes in the legislation. What are you learning here? So if you reflect, you're learning that, hey, if I can stop engaging in matters that are normally lawful, and I have a need for them, then for sure, outside of fasting, I can refrain myself from matters that are forbidden all the time. And when the desire for them, even though they're there, they're not so essential, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not burden us with something more than we cannot bear. So in that is something for people to reflect on. There's a training for you, that if you can achieve that, then what you're saying about yourself and what you can claim about yourself on a personal level is that I have the ability to control and regulate myself in this month. So therefore I can do that outside of this month. And I can do that for things that for sure are prohibited throughout my life. So you have within fasting those two types of patience. And then thirdly, you have the patience which many people usually connect patience with, and that is to bear the calamities that befall you. Okay, this is required as well. And what are the difficulties and calamities that befall you, or difficulties in Ramadan? Well, you experience hunger, you experience thirst, you experience fatigue, you experience other desires and so on. So exercising patience against those as well.
We're going to take a call, Sheikh. We've got Brother Uthman from Jeddah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Uthman, you're live on Ramadan Spirit. What's your question, please, brother? Brother Uthman, you with us?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Naam, tafadhal.
Please, I do have a question.
Please carry on, yes.
And I want to know, is it allowed to ask any question, even if it's not regarding this topic?
Well, the thing is that we're speaking specifically about this topic, but if you do ask a question, we do have other programs. If we can't answer it today, we will pass it on to the next program that does the fatawa. But yes, please ask the question.
Partially regarding Ramadan, actually.
Okay.
Now, please, it's about this World Cup in Ramadan.
The World Cup.
I know someone, when he was told about watching it in Ramadan, it's really time-consuming and not allowed, Islamically. Because the majority of the scholars, though not being specific about it being halal, being haram, they said it's not permissible because it consumes much time and involves certain things that are haram.
Yeah. Brother
My
Osman,
question
yes,
is,
go on. Can I ask
according to what he said, what about if he's watching football and during the action part of the football match and he's involved in like Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar, like when goal is being scored, when certain actions that are so beautiful, he says, MashaAllah, Subhanallah. So does this also involve time wasting?
Mashallah.
Can one say time wasting?
Okay, mashallah, Brother Uthman, that's a very interesting question. I've never heard it before. People doing ta'leel and tasbih during a match, mashallah. But this is a really interesting question. I'll take that question. Jazakallah for your call there. Brother Uthman there from Jeddah. Sheikh, we'll carry on to what we were talking about, and I'll hold this question, but it's quite an interesting question.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so we're speaking about types of patients or what they can help you achieve, okay, or what they abstain for. So we went through several. One is a patient that can help you in good deeds.
Yeah.
There's a patient that can help you achieve those good deeds.
Yeah.
There's a patient that helps you refrain from that which is haram, okay, or forbidden from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then there's that patience which helps you bear calamity, which, we know, which is some of it's the one that we all know about because it's needed. Because something
it's the one that we all know about and needed, but at the same time, subhanAllah, this deen is azim, it's sublime, and its teachings are sublime. If you look at just the discourse in the Quran about patience, it appears in over 90 ayat.
Subhanallah.
90 ayat, yeah? So I think maybe you can say maybe nearly half a juz of the Quran, if you were to stack them together. Yeah, that's not something small, okay? Yeah. So with that, there's a lot of teachings and other things to understand. And why I interrupted you there is when we say we know about the issue about bearing difficulties, you'll find that people don't or are unaware really of the potential for reward when afflicted with calamities. Yeah, and that's even sabr itself, being patient itself, is like the first stepping stone to bearing difficulties, because you obviously have the action which is discouraged, and that is to panic, to be someone who is demeanor such that when he's afflicted with something, he expresses words, could be blasphemous words, for example, or words that of regret, or words that cursing and so on, and why is it me and so on.
Okay, we'll just hold it for a second, Sheikh. I've just got a call from a brother here, so we'll just try and take this call if you allow me, inshallah. Brother Mukhtar from Ethiopia. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're live on Ramadan Spirit, brother. Your question, please. Brother Mukhtar?
Okay.
Okay, so now we've lost Brother Mukhtar. We've got Brother Muhammad from the Gambia, I think. Brother Muhammad, are you with us?
Al-Umrah.
Assalamu alaikum, akhi.
Alaikum salam.
Your question, please? Okay, we've lost you there, subhanAllah. Okay, we keep losing our callers. To all our callers who are watching, please, when you do give us a call, please turn down your television sets, okay, and just stick to the phone, inshallah. And our guys in the back there, mashallah, doing an excellent job. They'll speak to you and guide you through, inshallah. You won't have to deal with the television work. That's delayed, unfortunately. Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sheikh, sorry, if you
just one point I'll try and be quick about is that when people are having sabr, the calamity, you also have to make sure that you are someone who's muhtasib, meaning someone who anticipates and expects reward. The Prophet said about Ramadan, "Man qama Ramadana imanan wa ihtisaba." Whoever stands for Ramadan in prayer from iman and ihtisab, غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ. He'll be forgiven for that which is sins he has put forward. What does it mean, ihtisab? And the Prophet said that is in many ways. And even when someone passes away, the direction given by the Prophet is to tell the person when you give them the condolences, have patience and have patience and have ihtisab. What does it mean? This means to expect reward for the patience you are exhibiting. Okay, because someone may be afflicted with a calamity, a difficulty. Someone may be fasting now and experiencing difficulty, but that's it. He's just bearing it. Okay. And this can be a means whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives you your sins, as being afflicted with calamity does, but you miss out on achieving much more reward if you actually also intend for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward you for the difficulties you go through. And this kind of ihtisab, by the way, is even of a higher levels. You have people who have this ihtisab, who desire reward from Allah, and also have rida, are content.
I'm going to have to stop you there again, Sheikh, because alhamdulillah, we're speaking about the topic of patience, and Brother Muhammad's been patient with us from Gambia. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Muhammad from the Gambia, I hope you're with us now. Brother Muhammad? Okay, I think we've, Brother Muhammad, we lost Brother Muhammad again. There are Brother Ahmed from Iraq. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum.
Ahlan wa sahlan, Akhi al-Kareem. Your question, please.
My question is about, today nowadays we have lots of calamity and disaster in a Muslim country.
Yeah.
And when you advise some Muslim people, they say that I don't know how to follow which rules, I don't know accept it, because all of them, they are explain the ayat and the hadith in a different way. Can you tell the Shaykh what's the advice for the Muslim people?
Okay, Jazakallah, Brother Ahmed there. Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Next, we have Brother Muhammad from Libya. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Muhammad, you're live in Ramadan Spirit. Your question, please.
Okay, I just want to ask a question.
Yes. Yes, your question, please. Yeah.
Is it good that to be sleep with a woman in the same bed whom you are not married with, even nothing is existing in between you and her?
Okay. Jazakallah khair, brother. Brother Ahmed Muhammad from Libya. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feekum. Now we have Brother Mukhtar from Ethiopia. We did try to get to you, Brother Mukhtar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hello.
Hello, Brother Mukhtar. Your question, please. MashaAllah.
Hello.
Hello, yes, you're live, Brother Mukhtar. Your question.
I want to ask you something.
Yes.
I want to ask you something.
Yes.
From Ethiopia.
Yes.
I love you for the sake of Allah.
أحبك الذي أحببتني فيه يا أخي.
My question is,
if you could just turn down your television set, then you'll be able to listen to us, inshallah. Because you've got a bit of a leeway there. Okay, do you have a question, Brother Mukhtar? Okay, I think are we having problems there? I think we're having some problems there, inshallah. Brother Mukhtar, if you can't get through to us because we're having some problems there, please do send us an email at ramadanspirit@huda.tv and we'll inshallah be able to answer that question for you. Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sheikh, sorry, I keep cutting you up all the time, but I've got my callers and I don't want them to be hanging on the line for so long. Yes. So Karen, what you were saying, you're speaking about iman and ihtisab and what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so just, sabr, I'm saying, just basically has deep meanings and has multiple levels. And being patient can be, seen as being a first level, and then you need to have ihtisab, desire reward from Allah, and even desiring reward from Allah, you can scale even more higher ranks by also being contentment with what has afflicted you. Yep. And even higher state than that is not only to be content, because this is the decree of Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does all things that are good from His wisdom and His justice. An even higher level of that is to even be grateful, because you know that through being afflicted, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing you, inshallah, for a greater place in the hereafter.
So mashallah, it's expanded the topic of Ramadan and fasting and patience. Before we get to one of the questions, because I think it leads on to this, okay, which is abstaining in the month of Ramadan is one of the things. We abstain from food, we abstain from so many things that we do. In terms of those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to abstain from. Okay? Like you said, some of those things are halal, which we know. Okay? And we're also always told to abstain from those haram things. Okay? Like talking ill of people,
Yes.
it's not something you should do anyway, not just for the Ramadan.
Not only that, I mean, it's clear from the hadith of the Prophet that the Prophet said that Allah has no need of his slave to abandon, abstain from drinking, eating, if he does not abandon lewd sins and actions and sayings. So this tells us that the mere abstaining from drinking, okay, and eating and so on, is not the end and be all of fasting. And if someone carries on in being evil in his speech and in his deeds, then he's not getting the benefit or the spirit of Ramadan. And attaining the spirit of Ramadan is part of attaining the higher goals of Ramadan, taqwa. Okay, so it's important that Muslims, okay, that we all are not just people who observe the letter of the law.
Yeah.
Don't eat, don't drink, don't have sexual relations, and that's it. They don't think about the spirit of the law, which is mentioned in the very first point in those ayat of Surah Al-Baqarah. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may achieve taqwa. Yeah? We need to neither just observe the letter and ignore the spirit, or be people who are chasing the spirit and not observing the letter, thinking that they contain a purification outside the laws of the Sharia. No, we need to combine both. We need to be people who observe the law and its spirit. So in terms of abstention, even scholars say that abstaining from drinking and eating and so on is just the first level of the reality of Sawm. Because remember, we said the meaning of it means to abstain. The next level is to abstain really from anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed to be prohibited. That includes all those things that obviously Allah hates and dislikes. And that's the second level. And then the third level really is to abstain from everything and anything and just be intimate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is like a triangle, and this is what Sawm and fasting can lead you to. Having a close relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at its bedrock is patience and perseverance. You know, this issue of patience and perseverance comes again and again, like we said, in over 90 ayat in the Quran, in so many different ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the commandment to be patient. Wasbir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that He is with those who are patient. Inna Allah ma'a sabirin. Allah mentions He loves those who are patient. Wallahu yuhibbu sabirin. Allah mentions the rewards of those who are patient. وَجَزَاهُمْ بِمَا صَبَرُوا جَنَّةً وَحَرِيرًا. And He gave them because of what they exacted in patience, perseverance, Jannah, and all the pleasures and the bliss of Jannah. There's so many ayats. And again, you want to look at the connection between Sawm and Sabr. What does, in the Hadith Qudsi, what does Allah tell us about Sawm? He says that it's different from all the other acts of worship. He rewards them multifold. But with Sawm, it's for Him, and He's the one who rewards it. And then for Sabr, what does Allah say in the Quran? إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ.
Subhanallah.
Yeah? He rewards those who are patient, that compensates them with ajr without any measure, without any account. Again, see the similarities here and how connected they are.
Jazakallah khair. So you've, mashallah, you put it into real context. And in the second part of this program, we're going to take a break very soon, but Sheikh, in the second part of the program, I think we're going to look into some of these questions, but also looking into some of the practical angles of how to develop this really, how would you say, a core of our element in this Ramadan. Jazakallah khair. We're going to take a break very, very soon. Before we take that break, again, brothers and sisters, Ramadan spirit, these episodes that we're having, is there to develop in you that spirit of Ramadan. And this topic we're speaking about, patience, builds upon last week's topic, which where Sheikh Saeed Al-Qadi speaking about, which was, of course, maghfirah, or forgiveness, how to cleanse yourself before the month of Ramadan. And now we spoke about that first building block of patience. Please do stick with us on Ramadan Spirit. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome back to Ramadan Spirit here in London on Huda TV. This episode is speaking about the important topic of being patient in Ramadan. What patience means, mashallah, with me on this journey of trying to attain patience, understanding it, we have Sheikh Farid Haybathan. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh Farid, just before the break there, we've got some questions. I'm going to pop into those questions now, inshallah.
Okay.
The first one was from brother Uthman from Jeddah. A very poignant question he asks. He says, we know that a lot of those scholars have spoken about the World Cup, this football, not to watch it. He said the words haram, not allowed, or whatever. Okay. And then he said, one of my friends who knows this, he watches the football, and every time he sees a good goal, he says, MashaAllah. He says a bit of skill, he says, Subhanallah. This is how he's getting around it. Without going into the topic of whether it's halal or haram to watch the football, Sheikh, you said something previously which I think hits this right on the tee, which is how we spend our time in this Ramadan. Ramadan is a valuable commodity. We don't have much of it. We cry because we miss it. We yearn for it. And then it comes to Ramadan and we're busy watching football matches and tennis or whatever's going on. How do we deal with this here? What's your general advice?
Yeah, this is an excellent question for discussing patience.
Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, the answer to this, can be summarized in just a simple statement in which the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, and it would not need any explanation after that. A person will understand what that means. And that is when the Prophet ﷺ said about Ramadan, فَمَنْ حُرِمَ خَيْرُهُ فَقَدْ حُرِمَ. Whoever is deprived of its goodness has surely been deprived. Okay, so this is enough for a person, someone who's astute, someone who is interested in the welfare of their own soul. They understand from that what it means and how it should affect them in terms of what they need to achieve in this month. Okay, the time is short, my brothers and sisters, for all of us. Yeah, every second that passes, we are being closer to our grave. Okay, and we're going to wish to be brought back to do more good deeds, and we know that is something that is not going to happen. Okay, and the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned in the hadith, ما من ساعة تمر بابن آدم لا يذكر الله تعالى فيها إلا تحسر عليها يوم القيامة. There's not a moment that passes the son of Adam in which he doesn't make mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except that it will be a cause of regret for him on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So, as one of the scholars mentioned, one of the greatest distresses and regrets we will have on Yawm al-Qiyamah is, according to this hadith, is our passive attitude towards accumulating good deeds. Yeah. So that question doesn't need an answer.
You've answered that question.
Yeah, it doesn't need an answer.
Jazakallah khair. Sister Aisha from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You're live on Ramadan Spirit. Your question, please.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My question is, I'm pregnant in this Ramadan and I don't know how to get the reward of Ramadan.
Okay.
So my question is, what is the advice the Sheikh can give me on what to do? Because I cannot wake up for Tahajjud as normal.
Yeah.
I cannot recite Quran as normal.
Yeah.
Because of the stress of the pregnancy. So what can I do? Will I be able to also attain the reward of Ramadan with this pregnancy?
MashaAllah, what a good question.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Sister Aisha, Jazakallah khair for your question. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep you safe, inshallah, in this Ramadan, and inshallah deliver a beautiful baby. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this baby a means for your attainment of Jannah. Jazakallah khair. What an excellent question. If you can take that question, Sheikh, if possible.
That question is the best one we've heard so far.
I'll repeat it again. The sister's saying, she's pregnant in this month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless her. She can't do those things she normally does, read the Quran or stand up and pray for long. What do you do in terms of tahajjud or reading Quran in this Ramadan? And the sister says, how do I get the most benefit for myself in this Ramadan?
Yeah.
Can I attain this Ramadan?
Yeah. Subhanallah, what amazing. See, this is a flip to that previous question.
Yeah.
Someone who's concerned about not losing out on reward. And the answer to that, sister, is of course you can attain more reward, sister, than those who are doing the most actions in this month. That is how merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. First of all, the mere question and the mere worry is reason for you to be rewarded.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, understand that, sister. Yeah? Just being worried about this issue is a means that for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward you, bless you with that. Intention is key. Niyatul mu'min ablagu min amalihi. Okay? The intention of a believer far outstrips his or her action. With you and your body, you are bound. You are bound by time. You are bound by fatigue. You are bound by illnesses. You are bound by pregnancy. You tire and so on. Okay? You need your share of sleep. You need to drink and eat. Your intention is not limited to those things. So if you train in yourself all the time to intend khair and to intend to do good, so much so that if you cannot achieve that good because it's out of your control, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you as if you are doing that good action. Yeah? So if you really sincerely intend, Ya Allah, if it wasn't for the fact that this pregnancy was very difficult upon me, I would be doing these things. I will be reciting Quran. I will be standing in prayer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you while you are sitting down, laying down, and not achieving those actions, as long as your intention is genuine. This is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as for other things you can engage in, don't forget, one of the most important things is to make use of this tongue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us an organ which is truly amazing if you reflect upon it.
That's right.
It is an organ which, if you were to use from the moment you woke up until you went to sleep, it doesn't tire. Have you ever known of your tongue to be tired of talking? Your tongue, physically? No. So, therefore, make mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make dhikr of Allah. Make istighfar. Make tawbah. Praise Him. Glorify Him. And of course, engage in any other action you can do. Be generous. So much you can do. But the key thing is to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most merciful and He rewards people just by their genuine intention. And then obviously, ittaqullaha mastata'tum. Fear Allah as much as you're able. Okay, so whatever strengths you do have, whatever time you do have, if you can put that towards any good that you can achieve, then for sure, without doubt, there is no issue about you not attaining possibly the maximum from this month. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blesses you and us all with that.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. That's an excellent, mashallah answer. I'm so happy the sister called, mashallah, is a very, very good question. We're speaking about, you just said here, Shaykh, that, your intention is a means or an indicator. Okay, so I have a question here. I mean, somebody asked a question regarding what are the key indicators to help them know that they actually are being patient in the month? What are those indicators for somebody?
Well, with patience, it's obvious. The key indicators are obvious because, again, if we said that if we look at, they manifest themselves basically. Yeah. So if a person is in his ibadah, there's a greater quantity and there's a greater quality, that's an indicator of patience being and perseverance in action. Okay. If there's an abstention from things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes and hates, it's a clear indicator of patience and perseverance being enacted. If a person while he's fasting is bearing the calamity, and you can see his indicators in that he's not angry, he's not moody, he still has pleasant countenance, he still smiles, his mannerisms and the way he interacts with others hasn't, become someone who, just because he's fasting is very difficult to deal with. Yeah. So the indicators are there in your behavior, and they will tell you whether or not this quality of as-sabr is being exhibited. Yeah. And you have to understand that this issue what we're talking about lies, like I said, at the bedrock of everything. So because it lies at the bedrock, know that it's not that easy. But know that with Allah's assistance, a person can become patient. And that's why Allah SWT says in the Quran, when He commands the Prophet to have patience, He says, "Wasbir." And then Allah says that your sabr, this sabr you're trying to achieve, is billah. وَمَا صَبْرُكَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Yani even the patience that you are trying to enact, okay, can only come about through Allah's help. So seek Allah's help. Make dua to Him that He makes you amongst those who can develop this quality. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Okay, we did have a call there, but we lost that call. There's Sister Taqwa from Algeria there. Sister, if you could call back in again, inshallah, and we'll take you straight on, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Sister. We've got another question here, Shaykh, which I think maybe comes back onto what you're asking or what you're telling us now regarding what do we want to get from this month of Ramadan. One is that Allah's the one who's going to help us get this patience. The questions of not developing our patience in Ramadan comes about. The question says, what are the consequences of us not taking our opportunity to develop this patience? What are the consequences of it, Sheikh?
Well, generally, the consequences for not having patience in one's life is disastrous. Okay, because it is the key to all good. And the Prophet has said that a person has not been given something. ما أوتي أحد عطاء أوسع خير أوسع من الصبر. Has not been given something that is more comprehensive and better than patience. Okay, we know, for example, that Jannah is surrounded by what? Desires.
That's right.
Things that entice a person. So if you don't exhibit patience, how are you going to get to Jannah? Yeah? It's so key that, again, if you examine the ayat in the Quran, okay, in Surah Sajda, Allah speaks about some of the Bani Israel. Yeah? He says, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ أَئِمَّةً, that He made amongst them leaders. يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا, who were guiding by our command. لَمَّا صَبَرُوا وَكَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يُوقِنُونَ, when they were patient and had firm yaqeen, belief in our signs. So this imama, this leadership in the deen, a person needs to be a leader of his own body. It's reflected the same. If you don't have this sabr, okay, you won't be able to keep your body in check. You won't be able to keep your whims and desires in check, and you will not be able to succeed with the ultimate success of the hereafter. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says again in Surah Nazi'at, فَإِذَا جَاءَتِ الطَّامَةُ الْكُبْرَى يَوْمَ تَذَكَّرُ الْإِنسَانُ مَا سَعَى وَبُرِّزَتِ الْجَحِيمُ لِمَنْ يَرَى. And then later on it says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. The one who fears the standing of his Lord and forbids his nafs, his soul, from his desires. This requires patience. This is the essence of patience.
Jazakallah khair.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair. We've got 2 calls here. Sister Halia from Nigeria first. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister, you're live. Sister Hafia, sorry. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Sister Hafia?
Sheikh?
Yes, your question please, sister.
I want you to please pray for me because sometimes I get upset. I don't have patience. That's what people regard me as. I'm not patient at all. So
Okay.
I want you to please pray for me
Allah
that I should be patient.
Okay.
Thank you, Ramadan Kareem.
Ramadan Kareem. Jazakallah khair, Sister Hafia. Thank you very much. We'll go towards dua and patience maybe. We'll look at that. Jazakallah khair. Brother Ayub, mashallah, from Mali. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think I'm sorry, Brother Ayub, there we missed there. Brother Ayub, if you can call back in again, Brother Ayub, we'll try to take a call before the end of this program. I'm sorry, Sheikh, I stopped you what you were speaking about, but Sister had a very good question. I think it leads on to this, because the question of the consequence of not developing, and you said, look, it's upon ourselves to develop it. The sister says, make dua for me that I increase in patience. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make you of the patient people, inshallah, and to help you, sister. But one of the things about patience, Sheikh, is there ways of attaining patience from dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or from other acts similar to dua to get that patience?
Of course. Dua lies at the base of everything. Okay, al-isti'ana billah, to seek help from Allah. Even in this ayah which you mentioned, وَمَا صَبْرُكَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ, Allah actually clearly mentions that you will only achieve sabr through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. So the reality of our existence, Sheikh Jamil, is what? Is contained in that one ayah in Surah Al-Fatiha. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Yeah? If you examine the ayah, what does it say? It says, you alone, we worship. And then after that it says, and you alone, we seek help. So the very first part, the purpose and goal of your existence is mentioned, and immediately after, the means to achieve it is mentioned. And you will not be able to achieve worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by yourself. Don't think you can.
Yeah.
Only through Allah's help. So therefore, any quality a person aspires to have, okay, and build themselves upon, it can only come from Allah's tawfiq and Allah's deliverance. So having dua, all these things we mentioned at the very end of it all, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put cause and effect in this world.
Right.
You try and do this, this will happen. So we try to do those things. But at the same time, part of our tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that we know that this cause and effect in itself is not what will achieve those things.
Exactly.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to allow it for it to happen. So making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us amongst the patient is very important.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Sheikh. That's a very important topic.
And just,
we have,
if I could...
we just have a brother here. We've got a few people actually. We have Brother Ibrahim from Nigeria. Brother Ibrahim, you're live on Ramadan Spirit, please. Your question. Brother Ibrahim, are you with us?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Ibrahim.
Sheikh, we need your prayers. We are in Nigeria.
Yes.
Ibrahim Lawan.
Your question, brother?
Yes, not Boko Haram, but Boko Haram are killing us.
Okay. The issue of Boko Haram.
They
Okay.
are throwing, not Boko Haram, they are throwing bombs in Ramadan. We need your prayers.
Okay. Allah yahfadhukum jami'an, inshallah.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Akhil Kareem. That's Brother Ibrahim. There we also have Brother Yaqub. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Yaqub, you're live on Ramadan Spirit. Your question, please, Brother Yaqub. Okay, so we lost Brother Yaqub there. No problem, inshallah. Brothers and sisters, all of those of you who have tried to call in and we've lost you due to telephone lines, please send your emails with your questions to ramadanspirit@huda.tv, because we'll be able to take those and pass them through. Jazakallah khair. Okay, Sheikh, if I could ask you, just before we're finishing here, we haven't got much time left, unfortunately, but it's not a question which is more than the advice that you gave, mashallah, regarding how to develop this patience, but dua, those righteous acts that we spoke about, all of these things in Ramadan. If I asked you, could you list or could you say what would be the most important things for us to do today when we're focusing on Ramadan? Because see, your week's gone very quickly. Okay, we've only got like 3 weeks left, and many of us have just got into this Ramadan. What are those things that we need to do to develop ourselves in Ramadan, especially the patience? What are the key things? So I would ask you, give us some key sort of acts to do, okay, so we can at least start cracking on those.
Well, the acts are there, we all know them, okay. The emphasis is to engage in them, and one of the greatest ones for sure is spending time with Allah's words. Yeah, this is a month of Quran as much as it is much for anything else, and is the month in which the Quran was revealed, and all strength comes from Allah, and all strength comes from His words, and His words have been described as being in the Quran a nur, a light, a rahmah, a mercy, a huda, a guidance, a maw'idah, an admonition, and also a shifa. Allah mentions that His words are shifa, a cure. A cure for what? A cure for the illnesses in our heart, and a cure for even physical illnesses. Okay? So we need to spend time with Allah's words and reflect upon them, recite them, ponder over them, and in that in itself is a healing. Okay? And a person will never ever lose out from spending time with Allah's words. Okay, and we don't do enough. Okay, and that is the key source of everything for us. Okay, so I think pondering over the Quran, in different ways, listening to beneficial lectures and so on, will help us.
Can I hold you there? We just got a call from Sister Fatima there from Gambia. Assalamu alaikum, sister. You're live on Ramadan Spirit. Your question, please.
I wanted to ask whether how can a Muslim develop a fear of Allah in this month of Ramadan?
Okay, Jazakallah khair, sister. Jazakallah khair, sister Fatima. Jazakallah khair for that question there. Okay, so Sheikh, you were saying.
Yeah, so with the question as well, similar things. Basically, as mentioned, this month and all the actions within it, and especially fasting, is geared to reach heights. Okay, and it's geared to develop and reach all the good that we all want to get. Yeah, so that taqwa can be realized simply by engaging in these things, and also thinking about, brothers and sisters, think about the spirit, okay, of what we're doing, and don't spend too much time focusing just on the issues to do with drink and food and other things. Yeah, think about us standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, think about the reality of this world. Think about the reality of the world that we are going to approach. And in light with this question and some of the questions before, never despair. Never despair from Allah's mercy. Never despair from Allah's rahmah. And know that the more you strive, okay, to go near to Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to you in a manner greater than yours. Okay? And even if you were, for example, to make a slip, don't despair. Don't give up. Come back. Strive more. Just in that striving, Allah will love you for that, and it will increase you much khair. And the Prophet has said to us, وَاحْرِصْ عَلَى مَا يَنْفَعَكَ وَلَا تَعْجَزْ. Strive for that which will benefit you, and don't despair. Don't give up. It doesn't mean that we are all perfect. It doesn't mean that we always achieve what we need to achieve. But it's an ongoing struggle. And a person has to have thiqah in Allah, have strong reliance upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that if we are trying to seek out the nearest to Allah, Allah is not going to forsake us. Okay? So have that contentment as well, and especially have good thoughts about your Lord. Yeah? So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes this month a month of blessings for all of us, and for our ummah. Some of the questions touch upon the afflictions within our ummah and what's going on. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make dua. Make dua for yourselves, make dua for your families, and make dua for your ummah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rectifies their affairs and brings about the khair for them in this month, for us all.
Jazakallah Shaykh. The ending there, you spoke about the difficulties, and the brother, of course, as you know, we had quite a few calls about the difficulties that Muslims are going through around the world at this time. And it's come in the month of Ramadan, the month, subhanAllah, where there's so much other things that they have to do too in the month of Ramadan. And one of those things is just surviving without food for people who don't have much food in the first place. And I remember a question that came to one of the scholars, and he couldn't answer it when somebody rang him from one of these countries and said, do I need to fast even though I have no suhoor and no iftar? Okay, so really when it comes to patience, Sheikh, it's a step at a time, isn't it?
It is a step at a time. Like everything, it's a step at a time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to approach Him in a way that is meaningful, and that means to be gradual approach. If you try to have huge spikes, you'll only fall down in that same way. It's a struggle. A person has to increase slowly, but continual. Allah doesn't like from His slave, and this is in the hadith of the Prophet that He doesn't like from His slave that to be excitable, to be in a state of energy that's strong, lasts maybe for a couple of weeks, and then he's flat-lying for 2-3 months. La. Prophet said in the hadith that in Allah yuhibbu the actions that are continuous. Wa in qalla, Prophet said, even if they're little, Allah prefers those that are continuous, because that is what builds a person. That routine and the continuity is what keeps a person afloat.
So the continuity, this planning for not just Ramadan. Okay.
Yes.
So the last thing we want to say to our brothers and sisters here is that this topic of patience, we know it's exaggerated in Ramadan because we have those things, of course, like food and other things that we're not allowed to go near, we have to abstain from. But patience goes beyond Ramadan.
It goes beyond that.
And it's something which is the first steps. Maybe this is the month of change for us.
Exactly.
Maybe this is a month where...
It's a month of change. It's a season Allah has gifted to you for the future months.
And it's a season which can be could be our start, inshallah.
Right.
And the sister, we're going to try to finish on these kind of areas where we look at not just Ramadan itself, hopefully it's after Ramadan too, which is the sister says, for example, I don't have much patience. She said, pray for us, and we ask Allah to make it those patient people. But the thing is that it needs that positive mindset, doesn't it?
Exactly.
You can't have that thing saying, I'm not a patient
mindset
person, I'm not going to do
the
it.
key thing to have. Be positive. Do not despair of Allah's rahmah. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking for the betterment of his slave and her slave.
Jazakallah Shaykh.
Barakallah
Fareed,
Jazakallah.
thank you very much for being with us on this episode. My dear brothers and sisters, we've come to the end of this episode of Ramadan Spirit. We spoke about the important topic about being patient in this Ramadan. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He mixes all of those patient people and those people who attain His patience in this month and work for the rest of their lives. And I leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.